serious.
We'd all take our tickets, around the team, and get our 1 free cheeseburger and 5 more, so I worked out really well for that.
I'm on call this week, I was on call last week too. I kind of volunteered for it, really. One time I had just mess up this. Hey Scott.
Hi, Greg.
How we doing?
Not too bad.
Hand grab.
So could you picture that? Both sides, there's like guys out there on their job getting so I was coming to the spring to the bus stops and my just sitting. He's like down here, so
For a nice day, huh?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
News tonight, so maybe
Just a hours of natural rain.
Well, yeah, that would fit in.
So you were up close with them.
Down in Kansas, coming through the other day, and they still got quite a little snow behind the fences, and they had a little more snow, and then their wheat fields, they either had rain or snow, so wheat looks good.
We went to Suicide, Iowa, like Saturday.
Did he have visible
Well,
injuries?
that to the north, yes. So my son says out by Broken Bow, he's still trying to.
Tracheotomy.
No, he just cut his clothes. But then he plays squeezer. But he was like 65. I just can't believe it.
So was he making an illegal turn then when he?
Well, yeah, he was at the stops. Still this guy at the stops. I don't know what he's doing. He's driving like this.
Yeah, it's like slightly different, but when we were having that December graduation and I came up and those kids were out in the parking lot on the phone and they just found out they were and stuff. Like you just don't know what to do, you just freeze. So were you the only one there?
I was
Well, you don't know if you got
my
it.
car. That's me laying there. There's a way.
Oh. What's up, Mocker? Did they do CPR already?
No, he was
Wow. Well, especially there, like there's nothing around there.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. It is 6 p.m. and I now call to order the Crete Public Schools Board of Education meeting. This is the February 2023 regular meeting. Notice of this meeting has been advertised in the Crete newspaper, which is the district's designated method of giving notice of these meetings. We want those in attendance to know that copies of the Open Meetings Act are available at the entrance to the boardroom. If anyone in attendance is interested in addressing our board, you are welcome to do so. We simply request that you complete the appropriate form and turn it in to us now so that you may be recognized during the public forum part of our meeting. These forms are located by the entry doors of this room. Ms. Banos, will you please call the roll?
Greg Holman.
Yes.
Julie Kozacek reported in absence. Justin Kuntz.
Yes.
Bill Lorenz.
Yes.
Greg Mock. Scott Peening.
Find that we have a quorum present. We will move on to item number 3, which is the reading of the mission statement by Dr. McDowell.
The mission of Crete Public Schools, a diverse community of engaged individuals committed to the success of all, is to ensure learners have the character, knowledge, and skills to be respectful and productive members of a global society. Crete Public Schools will cultivate a culture where all are challenged, empowered, and supported to reach their maximum potential.
Thank you, Dr. McDowell. This brings us to the public forum part of our meeting. During the public forum, each individual addressing the board will be allowed 5 minutes. The Board of Education has the prerogative to limit speaking to 3 minutes when there are 3 or more patrons to allow all speakers an opportunity to address the board in a timely manner. We will not engage in dialogue with patrons presenting to the board. The board president and superintendent will identify staff to follow up on the information requested from patrons. The board president may share a statement on behalf of the board when addressing a major issue in the district. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to address the board during the public forum? Hearing no one, we will move on to item 5, which is the meeting agenda. This is the agenda as published. Would anyone like to remove any items or add any items to the agenda at this time? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda as submitted.
I so move.
A motion by Greg Holman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. Roll call.
Holman.
Yes.
Kuntz.
Yes.
Lorenz.
Yes.
Mock.
Yes.
Peening.
Yes.
The agenda is approved as published. The first item on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. The consent agenda to be approved is as follows: minutes from the previous month's meeting, claims as submitted, staff adjustments as submitted, and the treasurer's report as submitted. This is the consent agenda as published. Would anyone like to remove any items or add any items to the consent agenda? And do any board members have a potential conflict of interest with any items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I move to approve this consent agenda.
A motion by Greg Holman. Is there a second? Second by Scott. Dr. McDowell, anything in regard to the items on the consent agenda tonight?
Yes, I did receive one question regarding one of the claims from KSO CPAs. KSO is our auditor. That is a required audit annual, so that I believe is $33,000 is the fee for that audit. One thing to be aware of is that I can't put a time on it. Within the last year, the Nebraska Department of Ed has changed the rule, saying that all school districts have to have an audit done by a firm that has at least a CPA in their office. That did not used to be the case. We've always used a CPA to do ours, but now all of these other districts are looking for firms that have CPAs. CPA firms are well aware of that and are driving up their costs and being very choosy in who they choose and who they work with. So that was for last year's audit. I would, quite honestly, I'd anticipate a cost increase for that audit for the next year simply because they can.
Any other questions in regard to claims or items relating to the consent agenda board? Hearing none, roll call.
Holman?
Yes.
Kuntz?
Yes.
Lorenz?
Yes.
Mock? Peeney?
Yes.
The consent agenda is approved. This brings us to item 7, which are reading of the committee reports. Up first is Finance, Facilities, and Transportation. I think Greg Holman has those.
Finance, Facilities, and Transportation Committee met on Thursday, February 9th at 5:30. It was attended by Greg Holman, Bill Lorenz, Greg Mock, Dr. McDowell, Ms. Beck, and Ms. Kirshner. Ms. Beck gave an update on the window optics project and also the HVAC project at the elementary. Dr. McDowell gave an update on the practice fields. The committee asked some clarifying questions. We talked about drainage needs on the field. The committee also discussed other bids for their project fields and asked to negotiate pricing. Dr. McDowell discussed that he had a conversation with a landowner for a potential land purchase in the future. Dr. McDowell discussed the committee structure and potential changes that are coming. He has been working through this with Justin Kuntz. Dr. McDowell explained that by the state statute, we must have an emergency operations plan and it must be approved by the board. It outlines that what we do in all emergency situations. Dr. McDowell discussed the hearing that is coming up and the process that is followed. The committee reviewed the claims and asked clarifying questions. The next meeting will be Thursday, March 9th at 5:30.
Thank you, Greg. Up next is American Civics, Teaching and Learning, and Scott has those.
Teaching and Learning Committee met at 4 p.m. on January 31st in the Cardinal Welcome Center. Members present, Dr. McDowell, Mr. Stecker, Mr. Kuntz, myself, and Dr. Kozachek. Mr. Stecker presented multiple options for the 23-24 calendar based on feedback from staff and parents. The committee recommended proceeding with the original calendar proposed based on the majority of positive feedback received. The committee did request the calendar option be presented for 24-25 with a spring break of 1 week in duration in conjunction with the Easter holiday. Mr. Stecker presented a request from the intermediate and middle school administration to forego MAP testing in the spring and use the winter-to-winter data to tell our achievement and growth story. The rationale being that administration of both the required NSCAS assessment as well as the elective MAP assessment in the spring causes a significant intrusion on instructional time. They also believe we can effectively demonstrate calendar year academic achievement and growth by comparing winter-to-winter assessment data. The committee deferred to the expertise of the building level administrators and recommended to proceed in the spring without administering the MAP assessment. Mr. Stecker shared a MAP assessment letter for parents revised based on the committee feedback as well as the ELPA assessment letter for parents for which he requested feedback. Mr. Stecker shared the progress thus far for our summer school programming. Dr. McDowell introduced the concept for restructuring the Board of Education committees in order to have more collaborative communication between those committees. The next meeting will be March 1st in the Cardinal Welcome Center.
Thank you, Scott. Up next is personnel, and I think Greg Holman has those as well. Greg?
The Personnel Committee met on Monday, February 13th at 12 o'clock. In attendance were Julie Kozacek, Greg Holman, Dr. McDowell, and Ms. Beck. The committee was informed on staffing updates and current positions posted. The committee asked how the outcome of hires is going so far and with the current open positions. Dr. McDowell shared that it is and will continue to be a challenge to compete with the private sector as they offer more flexible schedules, including working from home. High school coaching positions may be a little harder to fill as there are not as many high school positions open, and typically they go hand in hand. The committee asked about communicating with the colleges who have educational leadership programs when an administrative position is open. We will do this in addition to the places that we currently post open positions. January substitute data was shared with the committee. Smart Find Express started in January of 2020-2021 school year. We now have 3 data points to analyze. Dr. McDowell shared that later today, the second staff appreciation event this year will be held from 3 to 5 at the high school. A nacho bar will be served and prizes will be given away. The committee asked if attendance would be taken since the time and event was based on feedback that more staff would attend. Staff events in part, if part of a workday, attendance will be kept and shared. The committee asked about the status of additional extra standard positions for curriculum positions. The position will be posted shortly. Job descriptions had to be created for these. They will be posted internally to begin with. The idea is that these positions will grow our own leaders and help develop leadership skills. The committee asked the status of negotiations. Dr. McDowell provided an update of where the board and CEA are with the negotiations. Lastly, the committee was informed that teachers' renewal agreements will be set out on the last business day in February. Teachers must state their intent to return for the 2023-2024 school year by the end of, or by the school year by March 15th. The next personnel committee will be held Monday, March 6th at 12 p.m.
Thank you, Greg. That brings us to item 8, which is our information and discussion items. Up first is campus highlights with Crete High School Career and Technical Student Organizations, FCCLA, FFA, and FBLA will give an update about their organizations as well as what's going on during Career and Technical Education Month.
Good evening. My name is Marina Bright, and I am currently the Family Service Sciences teacher at the high school. We are here today because February is Career Technical Education Month, or CTE. CTE, when you're looking at high-quality programs, have highly involved Career Technical Student Organizations, or CTSOs. Last year, over 20,000 students in Nebraska gained leadership skills by participating in CTSOs. Tonight, I'm here with some of our local high school students, officers, to express our appreciation for your support of FBLA, FCCLA, and FFA. First, we have FBLA.
Hello, my name is Nick Elsey. I'm the sophomore grade representative for FBLA. In FBLA, FBLA is an extracurricular activity that teaches us about becoming entrepreneurs and other important leadership roles in the business fields. One of our main focuses is helping our community. And the main way we're doing that currently is through our backpacking program.
Hello, my name is Giovanna and I'm a 12th grader and the president of our FCCLA chapter. Over 75 years ago, Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, or FCCLA, formerly known as Future Homemakers of America, was founded. Crete had FHA from the mid-1940s to the early 1990s. In 2019, Mrs. Bright started the chapter back up, and currently we have over 70 affiliated members. FCCLA is the national nonprofit family-focused intracurricular student organization for FCS students through grade 12, helping youth assume their roles in society through FCS education in the areas of personal growth, family life, college readiness, career exploration, leadership, and community involvement.
Greetings. My name is Michael, and I am a junior and the Vice President of Competitive Events in our chapter. Throughout FCCLA, we have an opportunity to compete in STAR and skill demonstration events. Students taking action and recognition or STAR events are competitive events in which members compete at the district, state, and national levels and are recognized for proficiency and achievement in chapter and individual projects, leadership skills, and career preparation. This month, we had 4 teams compete at District 2 STAR events, and they all qualified for state.
Hello, my name is Perla. I'm a senior and I serve as the Vice President of Membership for our chapter. Every year, FCCLA hosts conferences that bring together FCCLA members, advisors, and supporters from across the nation to learn, compete, and network. This year, our chapter attended the Fall Leadership Workshop in Kearney and District 2 Leadership Conference in Lincoln. We plan to attend the Peer Education Conference in Kearney and the State Leadership Conference in Lincoln.
Good evening, my name is Kibby Ramos. I am a senior and the Vice President of Programs. I also serve on the State Peer Officer team as the Family Team Secretary. FCCLA offers 8 peer-to-peer educational programs to help students develop real-world skills for life called national programs. Our chapter has participated in FACTS, Families First, and Power of One. Families Acting for Community Traffic Safety gives members the information and incentives they need to build an understanding of what it means to drive safely, both today and in the future. We have used materials and resources from Teens in the Driver's Seat to encourage safe driving at the high school. Through Families First, members gain a better understanding of how families work and learn skills to become strong family members. For the past few years, we have held an FCCLA Family Fun event in November with family-friendly activities. Power of One helps members to find and use their personal power. Members set their own goals, work to achieve them, and enjoy the results. Every year, our officers complete this project.
Hello, my name is Jose Chavez, and I'm currently a senior and a secretary for our chapter. This week is National FCCLA Week. Here are our plans for the week. Monday is Incredible Members, and our chapter officers are here to speak during the school board meeting. Tuesday is Incredible Service, and our FCCLA chapter will have our monthly chapter meeting and write cards to the children for the BA Friend. Wednesday is Incredible Educators, and we are providing a free breakfast for high school staff. Thursday is Incredible Skills, and FCCLA members will spread information about FCCLA during lunch periods. And Friday is Incredible FCCLA, and chapter members will wear FCCLA shirts.
Hello, I'm Ruby, and I'm a junior and the Officer for Public Relations. Today, we all provided you a summary of FCCLA's participation in competitive events, conferences, and activities, and we'd like to thank you all for your continued incredible support for FCCLA chapters.
Good evening, board members. I'm representative for the FFA chapter. My name is Caroline Higgins, and I'm the FFA vice president. I'm a junior at Cree High School. In FFA, we recently competed in LDE leadership development competitions where our Parley Pro team made 4th, and one of our Creed speakers got a blue. Our leadership development events are coming up in the end of February. We also have State FFA in March, where hopefully some of our kids from the LDEs will go to compete. Next week for FFA week, we have Drive Your Tractor to School Day, FFA T-shirt day, trivia, and some of the members are going to go down to the elementary school and read a book and do an activity to some of the classes down there. One of the most important things about FFA for me is that it cultivates leadership. Working as an officer team helps me and my fellow officers learn the points of communication, teamwork, and cooperation.
Well, I'm Nick Eltsey, back up here again. I'm the Sentinel for FFA. FFA is important because it helps open career opportunities, because 1 in 4 jobs in Nebraska relate to the ag industry. So it just really opens up a lot of opportunities to us. And also, we've been able to express our knowledge to agriculture through animal and land judging this year, earlier on in the first semester.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for them?
Any questions, board?
What day is the drive the tractor to school on?
Monday.
What day?
Monday.
Monday? That'll be kind of cool.
What are some of you talked about the FCCLA competitive events. What are some examples of those?
So our 4 teams were professional presentation, career investigation, fashion design, and Nebraska Health and Wellness. So I did career investigation, so I had to go investigate a career in relating to FCCLA and FCS. And I learned about art therapy, where it's a type of therapeutic service where people use visual arts to improve their physical, emotional, and mental well-being.
Very good. Well, thank you all for coming. You all did a very nice job, so great to hear about it. Up next is item 8B, emergency operations. Mr. Cole, is Mr. Cole here?
Dr. McDowell is going to go instead.
Dr. McDowell will present the updated emergency operations plan for Crete Public Schools.
Mr. Cole and Ms. Cole had a family emergency this evening, so I'm taking over. I'm going to do my best. Mr. Cole knows the EOP inside and out. So about 18 months ago, the Nebraska Department of Education made the requirement that every district submit their EOP to the state. That's new for us. It's new for all districts across the state. The good news is everything that's in this plan we had been doing for at least the last 5 years. Really, the idea behind the plan is to ensure smooth transition. So as people come and go, as routines and procedures change, this document gets updated annually. So because this is the first time that it's required to have been done, it also has to be presented and approved by you tonight. So again, over the last 5 years, we've been working on the things that are now just included in there. The good news is we've presented this and got feedback to NDE. We are ahead of where most districts are in terms of implementing best practices. And really our next big steps in terms of safety in our plan is to find the best way to communicate a 53-page document like this to our community and to our stakeholders so that they understand we do have a really good plan in place when it comes to safety. I guess I'll relate it to the same thing as curriculum work. This document is never done, and so it's just a constant evolving as best practices change, as we do drills and learn, we can update and change our practices here. But the idea is, again, that we have outlined all of our safety procedures that we use in the district. They are now in one spot, and upon approval from the board, we will send this off to NDE, and who knows from there what happens with it, but we've got it done. I will stop there and answer any questions about it.
What's your understanding of what NDE does with it? Do they have just make sure that it meets certain qualifications, or is it just, okay, you did it?
It's okay, you did it. And they've been upfront about that. I'm not saying anything that they have not told us, that after it's submitted, we won't get any feedback, we won't hear anything else from them. It's a check mark that will fall in line with everything else that we have to check off at the beginning of the year that it's done.
But part of this, though, was training and work that we did, but you also consulted with outside source. You want to tell the public a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the things that we have to do every year is hire a third party to come in and go through a safety audit of each of our facilities. That third party For us, this upcoming year will be retired Chief Hensel. We've used State Patrol in the past. You just have to have somebody come in, and they use the checklist or the rubric that's provided by the Department of Ed and just go through each of your buildings and make sure that you have those things in place. So that has to be done annually as well. And then based on what happens there, and again, through the drills that we do, through the practices that we do, through the training that we do, this document then gets updated based on what we learn during each of those times. The other piece that I think, well, there's two really important things that I think came out of this. So I think one thing that separates us from the rest and that I feel really good about us being prepared is that in January we did the reunification training. And again, that was the first time that anybody in our community can remember where we had everybody together. Local law enforcement, State Patrol, Creed Area Medical, Saline Medical, emergency response, everybody was at the table as we worked through that. So that was a real positive, and that's now documented in here. And how do we do that? What's those processes? What are those routines? The other thing that I think was a real positive that came out of this plan is it really forced us to go back and look at our agreement with Doane, because Doane is our reunification site. It's also one of our evacuation sites. So just to have all of that cleaned up, to have those contracts looked at again. Leadership here has changed. Leadership at Doane has changed since that original one. So certainly walking through this exercise and completing this, it is a good thing. It helps us make sure that we truly are prepared and that, or as prepared as we can be, and that we're all on the same page.
So as I looked through it, it had, one of the things I liked about it is it had different responsibilities for office staff, bus drivers, students, parents, guardians, I mean, everyone. Have we got to the point yet where we're talking to students about what's expected of them? Have we done any practical training, I guess, with all of those different groups?
Yes, so especially with students in all of our buildings, we practice, we're used to the normal, the fire drills, once a month, the tornado drills starting in March. But every building has done an evacuation, every building has done a lockdown. And so we do practice those with kids. Our next step in practice is to really authentically practice a reunification. So a reunification would be in a situation where we have to evacuate a building and we evacuate to Doane. That reunification process is how do we safely and successfully reunite a student with their parent, because it's not a free-for-all. There is very much a process that we have put in place and practice now. So that's our next step for practice, and I can look back to principals. Anything you want to add to that in terms of how we practice and what we've practiced for those emergency type situations?
Any other questions on the EOP board? Very good. Thank you, Dr. McDowell.
Yep.
Next up is item 8C, the district calendar. Mr. Stecker will present the proposed 2023-2024 district calendar.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to acknowledge that the calendar is not an easy thing to take care of. We need to manage to meet the needs of our students, parents, staff, and meet state statute. And if you ask each one of them how long Christmas break should be, you're going to get a lot of different answers. So, a little bit about the process, how we ended up with the calendar, that is in front of you. Dr. McDowell and I met. One of the things that he consistently gets good feedback on from our teachers when we enter into negotiations is our calendar. Some changes that we wanted to make as we move forward with the calendar, not even some changes, just 3 things that Dr. McDowell said this would be a good idea. Number 1, let's not mess with our full PD days. We get a lot of mileage out of those. It's a good opportunity for our staff to learn more. Our parents knowing that it's just a full day off and it's going to be in conjunction with the weekend makes child care easier to manage on those days when they don't have their students at school. So that was number 1. Number 2, we have so many systems that we need to learn. The days of just showing up, putting up your bulletin board and having your textbooks checked out to you are long gone. There are many things that we need to do with all the different systems we have in place, all the things that we are required to do. So we looked at extending our professional development days at the beginning of the school year. Another directive that we had was let's try to make parent-teacher conferences happen later in the school year to get some more instructional time with our students so that our teachers know them better, they have more data, that they can talk to parents in an informed way about their child's progress. With all that in mind, I constructed the calendar that is in front of you. On January 6th, I put that out for staff feedback through our Google Classroom. We ended up with 54 responses from our staff. They could tell me either that they loved the calendar, that they liked the calendar, that they could live with the calendar, or that they despised the calendar. We had 5.8% said that they loved it, 42.3% said, I like this calendar, 38% said that they can live with it, and 13.5% said, I don't like it at all. They also had the opportunity to give us data for suggestions, and we received numerous data for suggestions. There was no one thing that I could say, this was an overreaching theme, everybody wanted to see this change. To that end, though, I still looked at that, and we made some calendar adjustments. I constructed calendars that had a longer Christmas break, shifted some of our professional development days around, also shifted the whole year so that we would have started Christmas break much sooner, but then we would have started much earlier in the year. After taking that to teaching and learning a couple of times and looking at the data, they went, I still think our best option is to go with the original calendar that's proposed. Dr. McDowell also had me present this calendar at his parent key communicators group, talked about our process with the calendar, asked for feedback there. I also followed up and emailed them all the calendar and said, I'd love any feedback that you have on the calendar. I only received one email reply from a parent, and they just had the question, when did school start to have the Wednesday before Thanksgiving as a vacation day as well? Is that just common practice? Which it has become pretty common practice. I will say, I don't think there's any one perfect calendar out there. I think that we have one that approaches 50% of both like and love, and I think that's admirable. One of the things that the board would like us to do, the Teaching and Learning Committee would like us to do, is look at a calendar that does incorporate a spring break, ideally around the Easter holiday of a week in duration. I do think that's a good idea to construct a calendar for the following school year, not the upcoming one, with that spring break and get data on it. And I do think it will be interesting what that data looks like. I wouldn't be surprised if that's also divided about 50-50. But a lot of other schools have a spring break, and that is a comment that we did receive from some teachers and some community members saying, there's a lot of places that have spring break, why don't you? Of course, I also think if we had a spring break, then we'll start to say, we used to get out so early, why don't we anymore? That being said, I'd be glad to take any questions that you have about the calendar as presented. It is information only for this month.
I don't think we do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 8D, voluntary separation agreement per policy 4195. The board will review the voluntary separation policy at the regular February meeting of the Board of Education to determine if voluntary separation will be enacted for the following school year. Dr. McDowell.
Yep, so this is a yearly thing. So really the board has to decide. Some time ago, the voluntary separation agreement was moved into policy. This was the agreed upon how it would be handled. And so tonight we need to decide, is the voluntary separation agreement something that you want to use again next year? So the board has the prerogative to decide each year, is this something we use or not?
Any questions, thoughts, comments on voluntary separation at this time, board? All right. Hearing none, we will move on to item 8E, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. McDowell.
All right, thank you. I want to start by saying tonight was, you've heard in a couple different reports, tonight was the our second staff appreciation. You know, I'm going to roughly guess 75 to 100 probably showed up, and getting lots of nods back there. We did ask people to sign in, so we'll get a more accurate count. on that. It was based on feedback from staff to try to get commuters the opportunity to come. We ended our day at 3 o'clock today and allowed staff, it was their choice. They could come or they could go home, however they wanted to use that time. So from 3 to 5, we did have a nacho bar. And it was just, the one thing that I keep hearing is we just want to get to know others, right? And so we set up some time to do that. Throughout the time together, we just did random drawings. It was actually a lot of fun. So every 15 minutes, we gave away a door prize. Door prizes, I learned a lesson. So first of all, door prizes, we did DoorDash. So if you're not familiar with DoorDash, it's like you order food and they bring it to your door, right? Well, I'm going to DoorDash for our staff. They have a short lunch, so they're going to tell me what they want. Here's what I learned. I needed to specify in Crete because I got asked for some Chick-fil-A, and I don't know that I'm making the trip to Lincoln. But anyway, gave away some of those. We gave away week-long jeans passes, gave away some apparel. Probably the hit, we did hire, and we had 2 massage therapists on site for 2 hours, and every 10 minutes we just drew names for some massages, and I'm hearing already back there, man, this is amazing. There were a couple of massage winners back there, so I guess it was pretty good. So overall, I think a good experience. It's fun. Now, the teachers that are in the room, if you stayed to the bitter end with me, I ended up just handing out jeans passes like as Oprah Winfrey, man. Just a jeans pass for you, one for you, one for you. So about the last 15 people that were there, everybody got a week-long jeans pass. So all in all, it was fun. It was a good time. We'll do one more in the spring, probably at an off-site location. Next up, the legislative session is in full swing. It is a long session, so a 90-day session. I talk a lot about this, but it's had a different impact on my role in the legislative process. So remember, we belong to 2 organizations. We belong to GNSA and we belong to STANCE. So the GNSA, they have the sole focus on preserving equalization aid. So the only way you can be in that group is if you receive equalization aid. And that's their only focus. So we really pay attention to any bills around finance. We also belong to STANCE. STANCE is a group, there are 18 of us, 18 school districts, primarily Class B districts, and as far west as Chadron, all the way to us, and everything in between. I say my role has changed a little bit because I'm currently serving as the president-elect of the STANCE organization. And so the difference between the two, GNSA has a paid lobbyist and an executive director that takes care of all of that for us. STANCE does not. And so it's the 3 officers that really take care of all that. So the president-elect, and the past president. That's good and bad. There's 3 of us. The legislature dropped over 800 bills this session, and we're actively monitoring 80 of them right now. I say that, but it's also a good thing because the STANCE organization, because we don't have a lobbyist and because we don't have a paid executive director, is very well respected by the state legislature. So it's a really good thing. Without specific examples, we've prepared a couple of different written testimonies. A couple of us, I have not yet been on site to provide oral testimony. I did provide written testimony today for Senator Brandt's LB 320. There are 2 finance plans that are out there, his Nebraska plan and then Governor Pillen's plan. And at the end of the day, the Nebraska plan is better for Crete Public Schools. And so, I just submit written testimony on that. Finance bills are also interesting because it is it's usually finance bills that separates an organization. So it's really hard for 18 school districts in STANCE to all get behind one bill. And so if we do choose to testify, it's typically neutral. And then like today, I submitted testimony on behalf of Crete Public Schools, not STANCE. So, but again, I thoroughly enjoy it. I enjoy building relationships with senators. I love spending time in Lincoln. But it's just been, being a part of the organization is one thing, being an officer has been a totally different experience for me. Today, as you mentioned, as you heard in the calendar, today was a full day of PD for our staff. That is one thing, those of you that sit on negotiations, that comes up each time as a positive. Right now, the calendar is looked favorably upon. But everything from today was K-5 specials were in training, letters training at the elementary. We did science and ELA. Mrs. Beck did some training this morning with our paraprofessionals around professionalism and attitude. And so just trying to make sure that we're providing learning opportunities for all of our staff during these days. And we wouldn't be able to do it without the full PD days. If you haven't driven by the high school lately, especially just north there, they're making significant progress on the practice fields. They're moving a lot of dirt. And so just that process is continuing right along. You know, this week will be interesting as the weather turns a little bit. You know, as soon as it starts raining and that turns into a mud hole, it will certainly delay that a little bit. But the idea is that they will be ready in the fall for use by students. So looking forward to that. It's, you know, thank goodness we've had great weather. We've been able to move pretty quickly on that. I think what's important, just so that we continue to talk about it and people can hear it publicly, that's just step one, right? Like we knew that we had to get practice fields done before we wanted to do anything else. Now, and again, I say this publicly, just because we've committed to practice fields doesn't mean that we're fully committed to the next phase either, right? We have flexibility and we can move in and out of that, but we know and knew that we couldn't do anything until we get this part done. And so I feel really good about it. The people who we've been able to work with on this, the civil engineers, the Gana Trucking and Excavating right now who's doing that work have just been fantastic to work with. So I just appreciate all of them. Last thing I'll leave you with, I know you all have thank you notes at your table. It was board appreciation. All of you did. You created some pretty heavy traffic on our Facebook page, so hopefully you're able to see that. But then tonight, this was at my spot here to present to you, so we'll probably get it hung up in here, but just thank you from kids and staff. So thank you for all that you do. Again, I think what I appreciate the most is you're not afraid to do the work. You're not afraid to have the tough conversations. And sometimes what happens out here looks pretty easy and it looks pretty seamless to the public, and what they don't get to see is what happens behind the scenes in committee. So thank you for your dedication and all of your work. And with that, I will not conclude my report. I have one more thought for you. Throwing this out there right now to try to get ahead of a little bit. While this is only the February meeting, the April meeting does fall on our Easter break. So we'll propose a change on that meeting day to push back a week. We can talk about it in committees in the next month, but just want to get you thinking about that. We'll move from April 10th to April 17th. And with that, I will conclude my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. McDowell. Any questions, board?
So the practice fields up there, I've had more patrons talk to me last week. What's going, unless they're here. I don't know how we get it out there, and I suppose word of mouth will start going, but like maybe your Friday update on something on the website.
Yeah, we can get something more public on the website. It has been in my last 2 Friday updates, so just direct them. No, it's okay. I'm not throwing you under the bus. But I am talking about it. But here's the deal. Here's what I get, and what I mean by that. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus.
Yeah, you did.
But what it does say is not everybody reads the Friday update either, so we can make it more like, hey, what's happening up there, and make that more public for sure, without a doubt.
Any other questions, Scott?
Sorry, I apologize. It's terrible.
I should have just asked Greg, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. McDowell. We will move on to item 9, which is our action items. Item 9A is voluntary separation. You heard about this in our discussion information.
I would, if it were up to me, I would enact it for next year.
It's so, trying to remember how we do this every year. It's in our policy.
Is just a policy.
Right. Do you want a motion to?
Yeah, so you need to make a motion to enact the voluntary separation agreement for the 23-24 school year.
I would entertain a motion to enact the voluntary separation program policy as written for the 2023-2024 school year.
I move to make a motion to enact the voluntary separation for the 2023-2024 school year.
I have a motion by Greg Holman. Is there a second? Second by Scott. Is there any discussion on this board? Any questions?
Just a little clarification.
Yep.
That costs the district, I mean, the teachers get a little more money with this deal?
They do.
Explain that just a little bit.
Yep, so I thought I just closed it, sorry. So when the voluntary separation agreement when it is enacted, then to be eligible, you have to have 15 years of service in Crete Public Schools. If you have at least 15 years and you're at least 50 years old, there are certain payouts for certain benefits. So for example, a qualified certified employee who meets the requirements for voluntary separation will receive $100 for every unused sick leave day that they have. The total package, so no matter how much you have banked of your personal time or your sick time, cannot exceed $35,000. So every year you have to decide as a board if you want to use that or not. Quite honestly, it's a tool when times are tight that you're trying to incentivize staff who can retire, who are at the very top end of the salary schedule, to take the benefit and go, right? At some point in time, though, it becomes not an incentive when the number of staff are on the front half of their career versus the back half of their career, right? It's a financial tool for the district.
One of the things we've discussed over the years too, Bill, if you recall, I struggle with, if you're ever going to decide to take it away, you've now got people who have been in the program for 20 years. So I think if we're, just for me personally, I would not envision getting rid of this for people that are already in it. It would be at some point in the future, do we want to say, for new hires, this is no longer available, but if you're in it, we're going to honor it. I just think that's fair. So that's just my opinion on it.
And what you can do as a board is, if you were going to go with that scenario that President Kuntz just laid out, the board always has the authority to enact a voluntary separation agreement. You don't have to have it in policy. It can be a one-time deal, right? You could use it once every 20 years if you needed to, right? Again, it's a financial tool. The idea, though, is at some point, we want to respect the people who have been here for 20 years and have that opportunity. It would just be finding that appropriate cutoff date of when are you no longer in it. And then let's say it's not, you're no longer in it, but you stay with us for 30 years and it happens to be a year that, man, we want to try to balance some things out or try to free up some dollars, and the board decides to use one, you can absolutely do that.
It's good discussion. Any other questions, board? Roll call.
Holman?
Yes.
Kuntz?
Yes.
Lorenz?
Yes.
Mock? Peeney?
Yes.
Motion carries. Brings us to item 9B. Dr. McDowell presented the updated emergency operations plan for Crete Public Schools. I would entertain a motion to approve that plan as presented.
I move to approve the emergency operations plan.
I have a motion by Greg Holman and a second by Scott. Any further questions on this board? Hearing none, roll call.
Holman?
Yes.
Kuntz?
Yes.
Lorenz?
Yes.
Mock? Peeney?
And I do just want to add briefly, want to thank Dr. McDowell, Mr. Cole, and the rest of our staff and administrators for putting that together. I know it was a tremendous undertaking and a lot of work, and I know I feel a lot better knowing that we have it in place and that we have a good plan, and it'll keep everyone safe. Hopefully we never ever use it, but it's good to know that we've got it, so thank you. Item 10 is executive session. Board, do we have any, does anyone have a need to enter executive session? Hearing none, we will move on to item 11, which is old business. Dr. McDowell, do you have any old business?
No, sir.
With that, we will move on to item 12, which is notification of the next meeting. The next Board of Education meeting will be on March 13th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. A motion by Scott and a second by Bill. Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Mock, Meaning.
With that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. Yep.
That would answer everybody's question, because the people are going to be asking about the ones going to be there tonight.
Yep, and I can get those, but I have, if I don't have, I will get, and we can get those on the website too, we'll get them out there.
Greg, are we seeding those practice fields this spring? Is that what it is? Are we seeding the fields this spring? Is that the idea? And then